The following is a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club. 20 international chess professionals compete in St. Louis as USChessChamps.com presents the second annual Winter Chess Classic.
Welcome to St. Louis, where we present to you the Winter Chess Classic. You are looking here at a live shot of the players competing in the round upstairs. And as it starts to snow here a little bit in St. Louis, we've been having a little bit of white frosting on the ground. We are greeted by some heated games up here in the boardroom. And joining you here in the studio, I will be the guest host today, filling in for Mr. Ben Simon, who is out for the weekend. I'm Jonathan Schrantz. I'll be here today and tomorrow. Ben Simon will be back on Monday and Tuesday to finish up the broadcast for the show. And I am joined by somebody, Grandmaster Jesse Kraai. Nobody in the world I'd rather do commentary with, so I am delighted to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you here. And, one announcement we should make right away is Ben, who is away for the weekend, he's a famous guy. This guy is out doing commentary, announcing, we should call it. It's no longer commentary, it's announcing for a pro wrestling event.
Yes, he does very interesting stuff in his free time, and so it's fantastic that he gets the chance to get out there, and we will miss him.
And I'm hoping that when he comes back on Monday, he comes back with the full paint.
Yeah.
El
Nothing
Nacho
else.
or something.
Correct,
like
yeah,
that.
nothing else would be acceptable for
That's
him.
right.
So.
Maybe I'll come with the paint on Monday.
And so with that, we do also welcome everybody that was watching the World Championship today. So we had another draw in Game 2, a little bit shorter than the last one. Do you have any thoughts about the game that you saw today?
Sure. Well, let me pull up a board here, and I'll walk you through this. Now, this is actually a board that has different people's names on it, but that's everything we'll understand. I'm going to just show one critical position that I thought...
Magnus was here with the white pieces versus Fabi today.
Yeah, thank you. And one critical position I thought was really interesting, and that is in this situation here. This is a thing that's been going on since I was a kid. This precise position right here after rook d1. And the first time anyone sees this position, they say to themselves, black is beautiful. He's got this, what seems like a development advantage, and the white king is on castle. There's this pin. But then you start looking closer, this bishop is a problem, and if he can't get out, that rook is a problem. So this is a very well-known position, and Fabi played rook d8, which feels like a Patzer move. Naka has played rook e8, bishop e7 was the move when I was a kid. So rook d8, a very funny move, and Carlsen gave him a look. And I don't want to dwell too long in this game, but I just wanted to give my 2 cents on this position, that Carlsen thought a little bit and played bishop e2, which is a little bit of a cop-out, which is going to lead to equality after what Fabi does with knight e4.
Yeah, I guess what were you expecting in this position here?
Knight d2 is the real question, and I looked at this a while, and the big problem is not only did rook d8 not really help you get your bishop on c8 out, but it blocked your queen. So, for example, if you go for it with a move like d4, your queen's actually in grief. For example, you only have that square, and then bam, things didn't go well. Things didn't go well. So the best I'd come up with, and I practiced this position a little bit with our very own Eugene Perelstein this morning while watching the game, and we came up with this position. And maybe even later, I might ask some of the people, the interviews we do, what they think of this position. I asked Melkumian. He thought this was just going to be like something that black could draw, and
it's a little passive for black, isn't it?
It's passive, and I was playing Eugene, and I was able to at least give Eugene grief, let me put it that way, with basic plans like bishop e2, followed by at some point bishop f3. Anyway, so that to me was the story. So rook d8 may be a bluff. Me and Maurice got in an argument, like, was it a bluff? And Maurice is like, no, he's done computer analysis till move 90. And I was
you guys have been getting into it here.
Yeah,
it's getting serious at the chess club.
Very serious.
This is Studio A versus Studio B stuff going on.
That's right. So, but anyways, a very interesting draw. 2 very interesting draws. And then, of course, we got the rest day tomorrow. And then Monday we come back.
Yeah.
And so we'll always weigh in with the 2 cents here. If you want, somebody else in the tournament to give their 2 cents on a position like this, ask our YouTube channel.
Yeah, tell us on YouTube. We are definitely here I'll be reading all the YouTube chats today.
Right.
So, welcome everybody, such as Chess Kid 1 and Joshua Phillips. We're reading your comments, so a big hi to you guys. Joshua Phillips watching from the Ohio Valley. So thank you to all of you guys and everybody else that has been chatting. We will be taking a look throughout the show at what you guys have to say.
Right.
And without any further ado, we do have a tournament here, so let's go ahead and take a look at the standings for Group A here at the Winter Chess Classic. We do have a clear winner in this section. Unieski Quesada Perez is ahead with 4 points, and chasing right behind him is Jeffrey Zhang at 3.5. Just below him, St. Louis University's own Darius Schwartz is right behind with 3 points, and the rest of the field is close enough that we could see some big pushes for people such as Sasakiran Krishnan or Sam Sevian to make a big move as this tournament drags on. There's still enough rounds that anything interesting could happen. And in the B section, we actually have a much different story where we have 4 people tied with 3 points. That is Lucas Van Forest, Zavin Andriasian, Nicholas Theodoro, another SLU kid, and Eugene Perlstein at 3. And right below them in the chase, we still have a ton of people. This is open to just about anybody, this field. JJ Ollie Marandi has 2.5, and so does Aram Hakobian, Victor Mikalevsky, and Joel Benjamin. So what are your thoughts when you look at the B standings in particular here? Is there anything in particular that stands out to you, Jesse?
This is a real street fight here. Anybody could win this, and I think Theodoro's chasing a GM norm, but he's doing it in style. Almost every game he's trying to sacrifice something. So we're going to take a look at a lot of these games today. Big fight with Hakobian and JJ Marandi. We take a look at that one. Yeah, so wide open, and this is the field I aspire to play him. I hope they invite me to play there.
All right, and we will take one more look in the chat. Alex Eastwood is asking the important questions here. Which is, where is the rest of the Dutch opening videos? I did start a 3-part series on the Dutch. We're still missing the 3rd one. I can't remember if it got banned or if I had a kid and then I stopped making videos. Something did happen. So that is a great question. Where are the rest of the Dutch videos? I hope
probably got mated. That's what happens when you play the Dutch.
Yeah, perhaps. I was told, no more videos for you. You do 3 parts on the Dutch, they have to cancel your show. So that's why I'm not making YouTube videos anymore. But do please keep asking the important questions here in the YouTube channel, because I will be looking at the chat all throughout the show today. So let's go now to the pairings for round 6 here in the A section. If you look at it, we got Krishnan Sashakiran with white against Darius Schwartz. Hrant Melkumian has white against Mirekshenko. Jeffrey Zhang is taking on Ray Robson. Sam Sevian versus Alexander Matilev. And our game of the day that we will take a brief look at here is Alexander Shimanov versus the leader, Unieski Quesada. So Shimanov, a local guy here at Webster with 2 points, but if he was able to manage a win here, it would be huge for the tournament standings. And Unieski, our leader, with 4. What is happening in this game? Let's go ahead and take a look at this point. And Jesse, could you take us through this game and keep us up to date with what is happening?
Sure, it's been a really interesting game, and this is a very important game for Quesada. Quesada obviously leading the event, and he's done so really by playing very solid chess and taking his chances when he needed to. Here he's in a fight for his life here. He's in a very difficult spot where really all of White's pieces are better than Black's. It's not yet lost. White doesn't have a breakthrough yet, but it is very unpleasant for Black. And I thought what I'd do is, usually I start at the beginning, but I thought I'd just start in a particular moment here. In a position here which looks pretty familiar to anyone who's played these kind of Carlsbad structures. That's what we call this pawn structure. And one thing I really admire about Shimanov is he has had several games already in this tournament where I have witnessed him build up an attack. His score isn't that good because a lot of these attacks have failed. Most notably, we showed the game with Shimanov versus Jeffrey Zhang, where he built up a beautiful attacking game and then lost it in time pressure. And here's another move which I find very inspirational here. Look what he does. He plays bishop f4, and this is very inventive because, first of all, we're telling Black that he is going to part with his dark square bishop if he doesn't take. And so Black says, okay, I will inflict what seems to be a pawn weakness upon you. But in return for this, what Shimanov is getting is a lot of space with this pawn. And this pawn's really doing 2 things. It's threatening to harass the bishop with f5, and it's threatening this knight jump into here, which is going to look like what I would call a Pillsbury attack structure. Very dangerous for black. And all of a sudden, black went from this position here, where he looks absolutely fine. And this is one of these positions where Quesada has been very good at playing slow, maneuvering chess. And then to this position where I don't know.
How do you feel, I suppose, with the bishop on f4? How do you feel about black trading? Should he do it, or should he just allow white to take on d6 if he wants to?
Well, we could ask Quesada later if he regrets his decision. But it's true. What is true is that if white just gets to take on d6, he will also be better there. So what Quesada is saying is, at least I'm getting something for my troubles. But the way it works out, let's play this through. It doesn't work out. So knight b6, and watch this. b3, no, your knight's dominated. Very unpleasant for the knight to be dominated like that. Queen d6, the knight hops in. That's where he's going. And here c5, black had a choice of whether to play this move or not. He's at least trying to be active. And Quesada definitely does a nice strategy here, is basically saying, I need to go to the end game really fast. So here we go. Quesada says, give me the end game, please. But it's not a pleasant end game. And you can see how from this position we get the game. Quesada says, I'm going to trade everything off and hope for the best there. We say no. And very nice build-up for white. Bam. And so that is our current position with king e3.
It does look very pleasant for white, doesn't it?
Huge black square blockade, and there's a lot of things for black to worry about. In particular, you can imagine this king marching to c5 at some point. These pawns on the king side, even though they're doubled, they're amazing. The pawn on f3 is keeping the knight out, and the other pawns are getting ready to do all kinds of stuff with g5 whenever white is ready to do so.
Right, and he can take his time.
Yeah.
And I also just got word that in the Joel Benjamin game, there is some action going on. So
Let's
we
take a look.
take a chance here to go jump over there and see what's going on. And while you search for it, let's see if there's any good comments here. People have opinions about cats. Some people like them, some people don't. Mr. Rethink does not like cats, for example. Very good to know. Alrighty, so here
So
are we
Benjamin's
shaking
playing.
hands.
Oh.
Is that what we're witnessing here? It looks like there were some handshakes, and I see Joel Benjamin shaking his hands, so I believe I can ascertain the result of this game.
Real bummer for Joel. I felt like he was much better earlier on. But when you play the sky jumper, you really gotta watch your business, because he will come at you like a spider monkey. And that's what happened today. I'll just say, I really like the way Joel handled the opening. He had this position and got a pleasant position. Nothing wrong with this position at all. And something obviously went wrong. And in hindsight, it's obvious that it has to do with the queen being separated from her man, and now f5 creatively bringing the rook over. Let's see how this happened. ef, rook over, knight e4, snip, queen c7.
All right, white is trying to get active counterplay here.
Bishop f4. Boom.
Oh, boy.
Boom.
Oh, no.
And I will say this, Benjamin, oh, man, I will say he's had a couple games that's just been, really upsetting. Yesterday, he was completely winning against Big Mick, but Big Mick got his way out, and now not only does he, he just loses this game, and, well, he's going to be very upset. As I should say, for the old guys out there, Joel Benjamin has won the U.S. Championship a number of times, and actually in around the year, let's call it 1979, 1980, he was the next, like, Jeffrey Zhang. A little later than that, I would put it at. But, early on, he was the kid that people were looking for. And, now when you come here, I'm an old man too, and we have our senior moments. And that's what Joel clearly had today. He had some
It's definitely,
senior
and this
moments.
is definitely one of the youngest fields too. Not that Timur is one of the
Right.
younger guys.
Yeah.
But it does have to be hard for the U.S. Hall of Famer to come in here and try to compete against a lot of youth and talent. And yeah, it is always tough. So maybe we'll have an interview scheduled with Mr. Timur at some point soon. But until then, let's see how the chat feels about cats.
Wait, no. Oh. Wait. I'm sorry. We have a special thing.
A special thing.
Every time Timur wins, we got to show him jumping out of the plane.
All right, we have video of Mr. Timur jumping out of a plane. So let's go ahead and roll that.
good. Okay, good.
Wow, really amazing stuff.
Yeah, I love that one. I like it. I've seen it a bunch of times. Obviously, I still like it a lot.
It's something that you can watch over and over.
Yeah.
And I believe he might even be wearing that up there in the tournament hall. It looked like he had some sort of striped white and black attire up there.
That's right. Yeah.
So let's go ahead, though, now and take a look at the other section and what our pairings are for the B section. In the B section, we got Aram Hakobian taking on Eugene Perlstein. Joel Benjamin was unfortunately upset by Timur Gareyev, just right there. Lucas Van Forest is with the white pieces against Victor Mikhайлevsky. Robbie Keblashvili is taking on Nicholas Theodoro. And Zavin Andriasian has our game of the day versus St. Louis University's own JJ Ali Marandi, who is in the hunt with the 2.5 points, taking on one of the leaders with 3 total points, Mr. Andriasian. So without further ado, let's take a look at this big matchup. And I believe we do have a rather exciting game here.
Well, a rather exciting game that went to a draw.
Oh boy,
right away.
Did that just end as well?
I do want to show a little bit of this game though, because I admire the way JJ Marandi played this. Even though I thought the opening might have been a little suspect. So Andriasian played bishop d3, and as a French player, this is not really the thing you should be most scared of. But still, Black did this, and I don't entirely believe in snatching the bishop because it costs you a tempo to play knight b4, and then you're going to give white a tempo when you take because the queen comes up. So white begins the game up a lot of time here with knight e4. In this position, I thought white was simply better, but I've played these kinds of things in the French as well, and there's a very simple philosophy that I think JJ follows through on, which is eventually I want to first catch up on development and then open the position, even if it means sacrificing a pawn. I don't care. I want to open the position for the 2 bishops, and that's really what he does and comes close to getting a 1 position. So that's the pawn we give.
There's the pawn sacrifice.
Yeah. And then we're going to get active, and this is a nasty diagonal here. So, rook g1, bishop b4, snip, and I'd definitely rather be black here. Now, Andriasian holds on, but look at that, boom. There's some problems
here.
E5. There's some problems. d5 takes, and that d5 move is an attempt to bail out, and Black is definitely a little bit better here, but it's going to be tough to actually win. In particular, it would be nice if we could keep one of our rooks on the board, but unfortunately I don't think we can. And that's, well, JJ, come on, JJ. Look at how that knight is dominated. That knight's never going to hurt you. If you want to move the bishop, play bishop b6 or something. Bishop f3. Come on, JJ. Okay, wait. Before I criticize him too much, I think he at least had an idea. He said, okay, I'm going to take back with the king, and I'm going to claim now that my king is better.
Yeah.
Okay. The problem was that it's really kind of hard now to do anything with said king.
Yeah, it looks like.
And the
crossing
split pawns are a little bit of a problem. So now they quickly agreed to a draw. So I guess in hindsight, shame. Don't give the bishop away. Don't give it away. All right, let's go and look at some of our Group A games. Just kind of run it down to see what's going on.
Is there anyone in particular you'd like to start with?
Let's start with Saucy. He had a very brutal loss yesterday against Sevian. He started off with a beautiful position, and things got carried away, and he lost. In this game, he plays the advanced Caro, and this has gotten a very bad rap for Black in recent years. And Black, let's just say some obvious stuff. First of all, White can do a bunch of different things. The advanced Caro in principle is very simple to understand. You are playing a French with your bishop out, but it's going to cost you 2 tempi to play c5. So you get your bishop out, it costs you 2 tempi. But the clever thing that Black can do is wait on playing c5, because the moment you play c5, you are opening up the position, and in particular, you're going to open up this diagonal. So let's go through this. Knight c8, a very kind of special move. Just get out of the way and play bishop e7. And here Saucy thought forever, and it's very difficult to make any progress. One simple plan that Black has is very annoying, is that someday I'm just going to play bishop g4, get rid of my bad bishop, and then go about my business with c5. So to have like a French defense with all the advantages. And Saucy doesn't get much here. And I like Black. I'd rather be Black, let's put it that way, in this position. But you can
at least
tell.
as a Caro player, this is the kind of position you'd sort of be hoping for.
Yeah, as a French player too.
Right.
This is the dream. This is the dream that you sign up for. Because, you know, as a French player, you're going to suffer a lot, so you might as well have a dream about something. Right? So the game goes on. It's still going to be a tale of who's the better player, and honestly, it's a little frightening now. It's a little frightening for Black, but I do believe in Black's position. The rook on c8 is nice, and the bishop on a7 is nice. There's just some critical questions that Saucy's trying to answer, I'm sure, about what is happening after, say, bishop takes and rook g3. If you don't play bishop takes and you play rook g3 immediately, then you're going to run into knight f5. No, it's not true even. Knight f6.
Oh, mate.
Mate.
Oh, boy.
We're not even interested in the queen.
Yes.
So there's 2 options there for him with bishop e7 and rook g3. So, well, that looks scary. I didn't want any part of that. What are you even going to do after rook g3? Timeout. Wait, and what am I missing, Jonathan?
So what is the big problem here then with like knight g6?
I guess that's what you got to do. The sad thing about it is I don't think that's where you wanted your knight to be.
Yeah.
You
Okay,
know,
so how does your attack continue though? Are you playing like king h1, f4, f5, trying to for that sort of a thing, or the point is I didn't get checkmated. At some point I can put my king on h7, I suppose, get
That's
my
a
rook
fair
in,
point,
and
yeah.
hope for the best.
And you have to worry about rook c4 a little bit. For example, if h4 intending some weird stuff like knight g7, h5, rook c4 is going to be unpleasant. So that speaks to getting rid of the knight, right? That speaks to getting rid of the knight now and trying for this.
And also queen g4 is another idea with the same.
Queen g4, maybe queen g5.
Yes.
Yeah. So Saucy's debating that. We're going to keep our eye on that game. Miro is doing one of his other technical defenses. The guy is...
He loves that.
he loves to just sit
He
on there.
loves it.
What do you want from me, son? Is he...
You can also see where he is in the boardroom. That is actually his favorite seat, by the way.
Oh, all right.
You can see that the blinds there are closed, but sometimes, you know, there's a little bit of sun that creeps in, and it gets in your opponent's eyes. So he did reveal before the game that is his favorite chair in the whole boardroom. So
One thing actually that's fun about this is he's obviously suffering, but he likes to suffer. And in this position, White can go into a pawn-up rook endgame, but it would have some similarities with the rook endgame we saw today with Magnus and Fabi, where there was also Magnus had damaged pawns Well, I guess that it's reversed because white's the one with the damaged pawns. But the problem is the damaged pawns will make it harder to realize the extra pawn, and that's what I'm sure Miro is counting on. So I'm sure he's imagining a variation maybe like this, and rook c2. White doesn't have to do that, but that's one of the things he's just going to claim that this is well enough in the range of a draw because the black rook is so active. That's probably true. Let's look at the suffering of our Cuban friend Quesada.
Oh, no. And while you pull that up, let's go ahead and take one quick look here at our YouTube chat. We do have Alexander Cabrera Avelo saying, ¿Cómo lo escucho en español? I guess a lot of people have relied on the Studio B commentary for Spanish and other languages, such as Russian and maybe some others in the future. But unfortunately, this one cannot be watched in Espanol. Very upsetting. All right, have we got the game here now?
Yeah, of course, we've got the game. And it looks painful. It looks painful. As we predicted, the king is looking to penetrate, and the last move, f5, is all about space. And when I introduced this position, I was saying, it's going to harass the bishop. This time, what it's really doing is harassing the knight, because I want to play king d4, and I don't want to get checked.
Correct, yeah.
And one simplistic way to understand a position like this is to just look at the pieces and ask which pieces are better than which of the opponent's pieces. And here it's the same story as it was several moves ago, where all of white's pieces are better, and that pawn on d5 is weak. And you can imagine if the white king penetrates to the queen side, forget about it, right? So a very difficult game for Quesada, which will definitely impact our standings.
Definitely. That would be a big shakeup if our tournament leader not only couldn't win, but actually lost the game.
Right.
And for Shimanov, that would be just huge.
And let's take a look now at this other critical game with Jeffrey Zhang. It looks like Ray is easily holding this endgame. I could be wrong, but that is just my first impression. Jeffrey started off really strong and has been playing beautiful chess. Besides the game with Shimanov, I don't remember a game where he had significant trouble. And this game as well, not in trouble, but I don't think he's winning. And so he's looking over that Quesada game and saying, I hope Shimanov, this does to you what he almost did to me.
Right, yeah.
Right. Let's look at another one. Samuel here, Sevion, as we said earlier, he beat Sassi yesterday in a game that, a little bit lucky or whatever you want to call it. And he's been playing kind of, let's call it funky openings the entire time. This one started off a little bit more conventional with this position that's well known. This is in English. Some people call it a reverse Sicilian. And this is a well-known position for both sides. And Modalev gets this thing, which looks okay, right? And here he's going for it. And I like this move, h5, a lot.
h5.
As I said before, Modalev is one of the greatest attacking players of all time. And normally, actually, he's known to do things that we're seeing Shimanov in this tournament actually do. Here he's going for it.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of the white pieces are on the queen side, so I guess he has his eyes on the white king.
Well, and he also has his eyes on the unopposed light squares here. It's very unpleasant for white, and it's hard for white to find squares for his pieces. In particular, this knight wants to move so the bishop can do something, and the bishop wants to move so the rook can do something. So we're in a bit of a knot over there, and that knot is the reason why Modalev has the time, I think, to at least try to get away with the move like h5. Now h4 happens, and now a really interesting one. I wouldn't have the guts to play this. Maybe I don't even understand it. No, he plays bishop e7.
All right. Thinking of taking on h4?
Well, let's ask ourselves. Now, would I take on h4? I don't think we're ready to take on h4. But what's the intention if it's not to play that?
Oh, boy.
Bishop e7, I'm going to say I don't get it. It's not...
Unless it's time to chill out and put the bishop on f6.
But that bishop is doing so much where it is. For example, it's making it harder for this bishop to say move to a1 because of this pawn.
Right.
It's nice that we control this square. Honestly, the dream diagonal, I think, for that bishop would be somewhere over here. So we're going to come back to this game, and I'm just going to admit right away that there is probably some deeper sense about bishop e7 that I don't get. One obvious thing, actually, is that h4 is laying the groundwork for an invasion with the knight. So at the very least, bishop e7 is preempting that knight maneuver. And maybe, like you said, with bishop f6, that might be the way to meet knight f3.
This is at least the calm approach, is to play bishop on f6 and not sack anything, or
Right, and, you know,
and just contest the other dark squared bishop on
the long term, and the problem, actually, let's just say, of course you can play knight f3, but the problem is then my bishop gets to land, and it's not going away. And the other problem for white is just long term, at some point, f4, and then the invasion on the light squares with maybe the bishop, but the queen would also like to land down in there on the light squares. So actually, let's take a look at a big decision where he did it here. This is where Jeffrey arguably lost his mind. Not Jeffrey, Samuel lost his mind and played bishop c6. There's, of course...
Yeah, I've seen people do this a lot in the English in this kind of structure.
The c6 pawn is, you could call it weak.
And it better be weak, or you just gave up the light squared bishop for no reason.
Right, and as we see, that bishop... Let me do something dogmatic that I love to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He's got 10 b squares that he's controlling. The knight, of course, will only ever control 8. And because it's unopposed, you can't touch those squares. So the bishop is really touching both sides of the board. We're going to call bishop c6 a controversial decision.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those, it either works or it doesn't kind of things. And we are going to have to come back to this one because I've just been told. Well, you can go ahead and keep analyzing it. We do have Timur Gareyev lined up for a big interview. So the man that jumped out of the plane, we'll get to see him here live, and we'll get to see what he's wearing today. So with that, if you want to go ahead and refresh his board, take a look at it.
Here we go, yeah.
And we'll have Timur here in just a minute.
Okay, yeah. Well, actually, I'm going to look at something else, and then when we get in here, I'm going to ask him the questions that I have. We actually have some moves on Modilev's game, and it happened very fast. Bishop c1 happened instead of knight f3, and Modilev said, you know what? I play bishop e7 for a reason, g5. Very double-edged, and it's really hot right now. There's a big questions for white as to what's going on. Intuitively, black has to believe that this weakening is going to be okay because his bishops control so many squares. There's a lot of questions, though, here. In particular, like, this guy's always loose. That's obviously what Sam is saying, that knight is a problem. But Sam needs a good move now, and the intuitive move, knight f3, is probably what he's thinking about. All right, so we have Timur in the studio. I'm going to pull his game up, and we're going to look at his game, ask him a couple questions, I guess. And the position, I guess, let's start it off here with knight c3. Kind of an unusual move. Benjamin's famous for unusual moves. And Timur, welcome.
Yeah, how's it going, Jesse?
Now, we got to first ask a simple question. Is that the same thing you wore when you jumped out of the plane?
Oh, yeah.
Nice! So Jonathan called it. I was like, no, he can't be wearing the same thing. So, whenever you win, we play the video. So we just played the video, so that was cool.
Yeah, wins are not hard, are not easy to get in this tournament.
No, that's not easy. You have to work. We want you to win, though. We like showing the video. What's your sense about this knight c3 move?
Oh, it's very interesting, and I'm sure with the amount of time that the players had to prepare ahead of time. So this is something that I'm sure Joel contemplated and then considered. And I looked at his repertoire. So a lot of times he'll play like a more positional, so to speak, version of Ruy Lopez. Yeah. And here. Most of the situations he played with knight c3, followed by d3,
right,
is situations with black's pawn on b5. So I figured instead of necessarily getting into those main territories, I decided to play bishop c5, which I believe I briefly examined before. So I mean, and maybe I did realize I might be a little bit worse, but surely is playable, and certainly had its upsides
Right.
as we saw in the game.
Well, let's look. I felt when I was up there looking at the game. I thought he was a little bit better here. Right.
Oh, definitely. He plays d4, puts pressure, but it's kind of a standard edge.
Sure.
With
Sure.
the bishop on c5, maybe I'll look just a little bit more ambitious.
Mm-hmm. So he decides, all right, I'm going to take this off, and you have a choice between the bishop and the pawn.
I would have loved to take with the pawn, keeping more pieces on the board.
Right.
But somehow it felt like bishop f4 and e5 is hard to prevent.
And you have to kind of sit there with that bishop on d7. It's not so pleasant, right?
Yeah, just because if I trade those bishops after bishop f4, I have knight d7.
Right.
I have that space for the knight to prevent that e5 attack.
That's the key word, space.
Yeah.
You needed the space.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I
all
figured
right.
out trade a pair. Even though it simplifies the position, obviously reduces my chances to generate any kind of decent attack.
And I would say for here, as white has surely several different plans, but the challenge for him, right, is because you've got that pawn on c6, he needs to figure something to do with his knight. Right, that's his challenge, and it is kind of hard. Let's say that's okay, and he does this stuff. That all looks kind of normal. You tell me if he does something weird. So far, it feels pretty normal.
There's like an alternative plan, but this makes so much sense.
Right.
That if you look at the position,
Yeah, very classical.
I think,
plan.
b3, you set it all up. Except for, I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah, you probably.
Defense-wise, even though it looks kind of odd, but
Uh-huh.
f6 is okay.
You know about Nimzovich's incinerator? He has this whole thing where you got d6 and f6. Sometimes it's c6 and e6 against that e4 pawn. It's like if he goes forward, he's going to get incinerated. So you're doing the incinerator, right? And then you kind of played incinerator tactics here because you have this idea of doubling later on the e file, but also you kind of have a sneaky idea with rook e6.
As I played it out in the game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess one of those scenarios came true, huh?
Yeah.
But it was definitely there's definitely several opportunities for the rook to be active.
Right.
From h6. So, I did play f6, but really I want to play f5.
Right.
Just the bishop is very strong at this point, and it would be hard to pull it off.
And already, it's funny, like, it seems like in short order White's game is going to fall apart. But to me, looking at it, I'd be very upset about that knight on a4. I just don't know what he's doing, right?
Well, certainly. But I feel like Joel had, I think he set it up all good. I think for the next few moves, I think nothing bad is happening. I think I'm doing all right. But still, I'm working towards equality, I feel like.
Right. And maybe he should avoid f3?
No, I think f3 is okay.
Okay.
It's solidifies for the moment. Maybe I could have tried rook f8. That's a little bit more direct, going for f5. But I find it a little bit more committal as well, because then, well, I don't know. Rook f8, queen a5, queen c8, and then go for f5.
Mm-hmm.
And then the tactics, I think, work in my favor. So maybe rook f8, maybe he needs to play g4 then. I don't know. But
I mean, anytime you play f5, that's dangerous just in itself.
Get that f5 in.
Yeah, I mean.
And what played to my advantage in this game is certainly, to me, most of the moves seemed quite logical and fairly simple, so I played pretty quick. Whereas Joel maybe was looking for like the optimal plan, the very optimal idea, and then maybe also checking on some of the counter ideas that I may have had throughout the game. So he was running out of time at this point. I mean, he had about 15 minutes. Well,
when I talk to him later, I'm gonna scold him for that knight. Don't ever give me a knight like that again, Joel. Come on, look at that thing. Where is he going? And like this one, rook d1, it feels like he's trying to use some kind of knight c5 trick to get the knight in. Well, it doesn't even work, right?
But this is a strong move. This is a strong move. It made me think. Because now it definitely takes the edge off d5 or f5.
Right.
Because his rook on e1 could become sometimes even vulnerable.
Right.
And so he prepares that queen a5, and in anticipation of it, I played queen c8.
Right.
So I would have almost played rook f8 to play f5 now. But now, actually, when I play f5, also my e5 knight would have been hanging. So I just move my queen away and then prepare for the attack that I played in the game. So queen a5, I think, is principled. And
can I just say,
yeah?
I want him to bring his knight back in. I want him to play either bishop c1 or bishop a1 and then bring the dog home.
Yeah, definitely. I think that could work. I think bishop c1, and then I'm not playing f5 yet. Knight b2 over to d3, but I will prepare f5.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
bishop
yeah.
c1, I don't have the threat on g7, so I would be playing rook f8. So maybe then you should be ready to play g4.
Because this is the moment, right, where black, it's hard for black to do something right now, too. But once he starts moving the lady away from her man, then that's going to be your signal.
Yeah.
That's going to be your signal for a little, well, maybe I got something here, right?
Yeah, and I try, and my kind of semi-bluff worked out just because also Joel was low on time. So I figured it's time to just play, I wasn't sitting there calculating. I just saw one good idea and I went for it.
So when you say semi-bluff, do you mean this move f5?
No, so bishop e3 I think is solid.
Uh-huh.
Because then, okay, so maybe queen c3 here is wise.
Right.
Especially in the situation he was. Because then if I put my bishop over on the other diagonal, which bishop h6 could be actually quite interesting, because it also holds my weak spot there on g7. Potentially could also be conducive to some other kinds of attacks. So,
yeah,
so queen c3 I think would have been smart for him to repeat.
Because if nothing else on bishop h6, I can bring the dog home.
Yeah,
on
exactly,
d2.
exactly, and then you can at least trade the bishops.
Right.
And then just simplify as it comes down to, just kind of
right
playing on increment.
So this one is kind of like it's like the belief that you can't do anything when you play knight c3.
Yeah, knight c3 just wasn't. Yeah, knight c3 was probably the major mistake. I don't know. I think legitimately white was actually still fine in the game.
Right.
But it just doesn't feel right. Locking the queen on a5.
Well, right, and now there's all kinds of stuff that's happening after f5 now, because first your rooks might touch your bishop, and then he's there for life. Once your rooks touch the bishop, right?
Yep.
And then if he probably doesn't want to let you play f4. He doesn't want that. Right, so he pretty much has to take, and then bam.
Also, I have the option. Now that with that, I have bishop b6 idea. So in case like he plays bishop c1, I play bishop b6 with tempo.
Yeah. That's nice.
And then look for other opportunities for attack. Fe, maybe d5.
Yeah.
Try to get the e file.
The queen's in her own little prison over there. She can't get back.
Yeah.
Oh, don't leave your man. Don't leave your man.
So here, instead of knight e4, possibly g4.
Oh.
And then here, this kind of stuff obviously needs to be very well calculated. But as I said, I saw one or two good ideas and I just decided to go for it just because of the dynamic, right? I mean, look, all of my pieces are there. What you got to be waiting for, right? So bishop f4, rook
Bishop
f2.
f4, yeah. Also, queen d8 looks plausible.
Yeah, bringing the queen over.
Sure, yeah.
So in that case, maybe rook d1, queen h4.
All I know is your force count is pretty good over there. Like rook e2 now.
Yeah, it's just all the pieces there. I mean, something's got to happen, right?
Worst case scenario, you play bishop f4.
Queen h3 is
you
there,
probably
right?
have something. Queen
Queen
h3
h3 is just
queen
winning on
h3
the
looks
spot,
good.
yeah.
Okay.
So
When you bring the lady over, the other lady isn't home.
yeah.
Yeah, this is a bad marriage. This isn't going to work out. So yeah, already. I mean, I get knight e4 because now it feels like we're punishing you for letting my knight back in.
Yep.
But unfortunately, like your lady's coming in right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
So here, I could have played bishop b6 and then picked up the pawn.
Right.
But at this point, especially in the game and in the tournament, I was getting impatient.
Well, okay. Let's just say a couple things. Here you have a nasty trick, right, with like knight f3 as a threat.
Well, most importantly, so the way I guess he has to play queen c7 because because of also rook h2 followed by knight f3, those ideas. There's a lot of tactics if you have 20 minutes to sit and figure it out.
Right.
But certainly he had only a few minutes.
Why don't I show this to the chess fans?
Yeah.
Queen e1, and then what would happen here?
Oh, Queen e1. Well, here the cool thing, and that's a general recommendation if you're trying to do something crazy.
Uh-huh.
Well, if you have a perpetual, unless you're like completely crushing it, right?
Right.
But if it's some kind of double-edged attack, well, if you have a perpetual, then you only have so much to lose, right?
That's true, yeah.
But do I have a perpetual?
Well, don't you have Rook h2 and Queen h5 and Queen
King
g6?
g3, Queen g6, King h3, Queen h6, Queen h4. Then he can avoid it on the perpetual, right? But here I haven't sacrificed anything,
No,
right?
you should be able to find something here.
So bishop f4 is interesting.
Sure.
Queen h5 is interesting.
It's promising.
It's excellent.
I'm just
I
gonna
can
tell-
just keep my bishop on the diagonal.
I'm going to tell Joel later that if you get in a mess like this, you bring your lady back home. Because, she's got competition with this other lady come and try to bring in the mate, and that's not a nice thing. Don't leave your man at home alone, because this is what happens to you, bishop f4.
So I don't know if that's the strongest continuation. That's just something I figured, and
Well, what else can he
worked.
do?
So he can. I don't know if he can let me take on h2. Then Queen h5 and yeah, I mean,
it's hard to believe he could let you take
it's
on
crushing,
h2.
right?
Yeah.
So
Maybe. All right,
what Joel did was actually keeping him in the game.
Uh-huh.
So g3,
Nice move. Look at that. Nice tactic. Yeah.
and then here he absolutely had to play rook d2. So now my thought was Queen g3, which as I said, I was
Queen
just,
h3, right?
yeah, I was just looking at it very, very quick. And then here actually just knight g3. So my idea doesn't work at all. Because if Queen g3, then rook g2.
Yeah.
And then I'm
okay.
losing. So Queen h3 doesn't work, but here I can certainly just bounce back with the bishop to f4.
Yeah, there you go.
Still keeping my attacking chances. And at this point, there's the tricky way to continue for white, and there's probably the proper way is to play rook g2.
Yeah.
And here, interestingly, is that g7 is just, okay, maybe I have queen f8. Yeah, that's probably, queen f8. Yeah, queen f8 probably is the more fighting option. Then the other rook to g1. So now he's starting, fighting back. Then I have knight g6. So then I'm keeping my pieces. He's keeping his weaknesses, but certainly his position is coordinating better. So
This, you could play what, rook g6 too?
yeah, and here certainly rook g6 is an option. And then after rook takes hg, and I have my
HG.
queen h3.
Right, that looks dangerous.
Dangerous idea, yeah. And then h2 is hanging. So yeah, rook g6 is pretty strong, I think. So that's why I think. I see. So yeah, rook g2, just rook g6. Because before I was thinking about rook g1. So here, I guess same.
And I guess, right, the claim we're making is that
So queen d6
taking this
probably,
is
right?
probably too dangerous.
If queen d6.
And this queen actually is still not going anywhere. She can't ever check. She can't take this guy. She can't take that guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, queen h3 is the obvious move. Maybe there's something else.
Yeah, queen h3, rook f2. And
Can we do that one?
knight g4 is very strong, I think.
Oh,
And knight
knight
g4 I
g4.
think is winning.
Yeah.
No, knight f3, queen f4.
Oh, excuse me, yeah.
Knight g4 is strong.
Oh, knight g4, very nice. Let's
Yeah,
show
that's,
that
that's
variation.
a beast, yeah.
Snip, 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 snap.
Yeah, either rook e1 or queen f1.
Or queen f1, yeah.
So,
I like to use all the pieces. Okay, yeah. So let's show the final tactic here. Very nice. I'm assuming Joel was in hectic time pressure here.
yeah, he had just about 3-4 minutes on the clock.
So bishop g3, and the trick is that on knight
So
g3.
I don't know what he thought I was gonna do. So knight g3. He might have thought queen h3. And then I'm gonna try some kind of like crazy further sacrifice with some kind of perpetual maybe or something.
Zap.
So obviously that's the idea he missed. And that's easy to miss. It's kind of subtle, right?
Yeah.
And then they just...
Well, I'll tell you what, it doesn't look that subtle for right now. It looks like mate.
It is exactly that, yeah. It's tough to even...
Yeah, what he's supposed to
I mean,
do.
there's some geometric tricks, but they're just... Like bishop e5, most importantly, d. Oh, sorry. So knight h5.
Oh, knight h5, yeah.
Rook h5, then bishop e5.
Yeah.
So here, looks like there's some choices. Maybe bring the other rook over, but then there's some checks, right? So, but here just d.
Just d, yeah.
And same thing, you know.
Same mate. All right,
No way
Timur,
out,
beautiful game. Thanks for showing it to us. And one thing I'll say to the chess fans is Timur didn't start off that strong, missed the first game, but now is in the tournament. Because this tournament, there's only a +1 is the highest we got, so you have a chance.
I was actually very surprised this morning when I
yeah.
looked. I was like, "What's going on here?"
Yeah.
It's like, is that the pairings for the previous round? And then I see that I'm playing Joel, right?
Right.
And I was like, "Oh man, the most people players have is 3 points."
Yeah.
Would have been actually, of course, would have been nicer to have a better start, but hopefully, I'll get some more nice games, especially with White.
Yeah.
It's a little bit tough to build up. So twice that I build up like a very impressive looking game, and then all of a sudden I find out I'm playing a grandmaster who doesn't want to lose. So
Yeah.
cheers.
All right.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back.
A moment comes in chess when you need to test yourself at a different level. Chess 24 Premium offers the tools that you need to reach your maximum potential. From hundreds of interactive video lessons to becoming part of the Chess 24 community. You can analyze with friends or coach your students live. You get 24/7 coverage of chess news and events, access to premium analysis and commentary, and the chance to interact with grandmasters and other top players and coaches. Get advice from the best and even challenge them to a battle. Be the best chess player you can be. It's time to level up your game with Chess 24 Premium membership.
All right, and welcome back to St. Louis, where we still have a nice round here going in the Winter Chess Classic. As always, I want to thank everybody that has been active in the YouTube chat, where Why Are Men in My Shoes has been very active today with lots and lots of comments. I'm just getting back to the desk. I will keep an eye on all of your fantastic, amazing comments here. So please keep them coming. If you have anything good to say, we will check it out here on the show. But Jesse, I'm wondering what is happening in that Quesada game. We remember that was the one where Shimanov was looking pretty good there with the more active pieces. So take me through what's happened and what we've missed here.
Right. One thing when we think about chess talent and chess brilliance, we often think about brilliant attacks and that kind of thing. But when you really are playing at a high level, what you're going to have to learn to do is you're going to have to learn how to suffer.
Oh boy, yes.
And what Quesada's doing here is giving us a clinic in how to suffer. And I think when we go back to our position that right around here we stopped last time, is where we stopped, right? And it's a real dilemma to figure out how to help black out. So watch what he does. Bishop d7, and White says, I'll first hit you here. knight a6, but I do not really want the trade. I don't want to let you trade anything off. So f6 happens. I think that's a strong move. Knight comes d3, bishop goes back. So the bishop is aiming to go to e2.
And I wonder also if the knight on d3 is actually aimed for h5. Knight f4 to h5 at that point.
Right, and that's why bishop e8 happens to guard against knight h5. And check it out, on knight f4, we have knight c7. And
Okay,
let's just
cover
think,
the e6 square.
let's think about all these things that Quesada is covering for a moment. The knight, this one, is covering b5 and e6. The bishop is covering h5. So when we look at the position, it's hard to imagine white ever getting anything in that doesn't involve those squares, right? Notice also that the knights are really well aligned to protect the d5 pawn, and if the bishop needs to at any point, it can go to f7. So Shimanov has a very strong edge, but it's going to be a real challenge for him to find a plan here. We're about to hit move 40. Actually, I think we have a couple moves have been played. Let's put those on the board. Bishop e2 and bishop f7, not surprising. We've hit move 40.
Okay, so yeah, we'll have a time for a big think, and we'll be able to see if he's actually able to find a way to break through here.
Right, and I think, you know, one thing that's a challenge for Shimanov is he's so good at getting these attacking positions, but oftentimes, you know, this is when you play at the highest level, you got to knock somebody out from here, and this takes a lot of not only creativity but grit, because you're going to be tired, and it's going to be rough. Yesterday, I thought he had a very nice position against Ray Robeson, and I felt he gave the draw a little too easy. I thought he gave the draw too easy. So this is getting to this position is his strength, and now is the challenge to convert. And this isn't an easy position to figure out what white should do. And in fact, it might, if he doesn't come up with an idea ASAP, it's just going to be a draw.
Yeah, and one thing I know white would love to achieve here, don't know how to do it, but if you could trade the light squared bishops, for example, that would sort of open up a lot more squares potentially for the white knights to hop into. Don't see a direct way to actually achieve such a plan, but
Well,
it is a dream.
I don't know how much it would help, but you could consider, for example, a move like bishop b5 and try to tell black that he's close to Zugzwang. But, you know, it's a long road. It's a long road there. Let's look at Miro. He's achieved what he's been dreaming of achieving, which is a pawn down rook endgame.
Okay, some of us have interesting dreams, yeah.
So is that interesting? You know, Miro's a very solid player in this tournament. He's just, I think, going after a strategy of playing ultra solid. He only lost round one, and that from against Modulev in a position that he probably could have held. Honestly, a position kind of similar to this. Though I guess that one, let's say it was a little bit hard to hold. Here, I think, in principle, he's right. He should hold this relatively easily, but my friend Milkumian, he's going to make him suffer. This is the kind of thing, honestly, I think the World Championship is going to be decided on. Can, like Magnus or Fabi press in a position like this? And we've already seen that in the first two games now with rook end games with up a pawn with some pushing.
And so far we've seen that it's been a draw both times.
So far we've seen.
So it is.
Yeah.
It's obviously a very difficult one to convert.
I think I think one thing that I wish a coach had told me at an early age, though, in all seriousness, was you get a position like this, tell yourself that you are going to go the entire distance. Just prepare yourself mentally to say, I don't care if it's technically a draw. I'm going to push, I'm going to push, and I'm going to push. And usually the game will be a draw, but often I will find some way to crack this guy, and I will have the will to do it.
Yeah, and most people just don't have that will. It's
Right,
hard.
it's very hard.
Especially on the amateur level. I mean, you don't want to sit here and play. You want to go eat at the
Mm-hmm.
local Thai place.
Yeah.
You don't want to be sitting here dwelling on it. But that is basically when it gets to the top and every single half point gets harder and harder to achieve. You see people just suffering and grinding. And I feel like someone like Magnus and Fabi, they're both grinders. They sit there for a long time. And they're both willing to do it, and you do see it pay off when they get a half point here, a half point there. Don't get it every time, but I think both of them, they have what it takes to sit there and grind away.
And let's look at some more suffering here. My friend Eugene Perlstein, from a position I thought he was totally fine, got himself in a bit of a mess here. And this knight on A8, he is the picture of suffering.
That's not a good night.
And Hakobian has very simple plans to break through. I would guess now is the simple thing is to say, well, let's try to trade off your good bishop and see if the king running in is a winning endgame. And in a lot of ways, what it's starting to look like is a king and pawn endgame, right? Yeah. A king and pawn endgame where white has more, just more flexibility because at any point he can bring the knight around. And he's the one who gets to decide when the knights move.
Come back into the game.
Yeah.
Yes, very true.
So we'll check in on that one. Eugene definitely in some struggles. Let's do my old man, my favorite old man, Victor, playing the young champion, Van Forest, who's played already a number of good games and lost yesterday, but is still one of the people with 3 points. Jonathan, what's your first take on this position?
So, first of all, I do see that knight on a3. Not exactly sure where it's going, so I just see kind of a better minor piece potentially for white here. Not sure if that knight is getting trapped. Somehow, if we can guard the b1 square, we could play rook to a2, such as. Not sure exactly how to do it, though. You can't bring the bishop around quite yet.
Well, one thing I will point out in Big Mick's favor is that he's up a pawn.
That's good.
And Big Mick is beautiful at positions like this, making people suffer. And if he's going to win, it's going to have to be some kind of thing like a rook g7 where white can't get back, you know. But it is hard to see how that actually would work. So Big Mick's trying to figure it out. Big Mick, one of his problems is time pressure. And here it is. We can see he's got 1 minute left. I think he just made a move. In fact, he's made 2 moves. Let's look at what happened. He went for e5, rook d2, and it really is a bummer with the knight. So the knight...
Right, so if you trade the rooks...
If you trade the rooks, you probably will lose. Here. Yeah. So rook e7, and he's almost... Luckily, these days, you get 30 seconds to move. You used to not be able to get that.
And it is worth pointing out that these clocks are not always accurate because there is a slight delay between the DGT and what is actually happening. But it's pretty close to accurate.
This actually, it's starting to look a little scary for Big Mick. I mean, even white can start thinking about things like check to the miserable king and then king d2.
Yes.
How bad can that be?
I don't know. The king will eventually get to the b2 square.
Maybe I'll make a slight addendum to that. If rook d2, let's say king g7. I don't know exactly where to go. But if you go king d2, I think I have a trick. I could take, and then knight b1 takes c3.
Ah, very clever.
So that's a trick that white has to watch out for. But in general here, white's got some time, and he's been suffering for most of this game, but he might be able to find a way to really mess with our friend Big Mick here.
Very true.
Rook d6, king g7 on the board. Let's see what happened. King d2 was played. Uh-oh. Oh, my God. Wait, no. See, sometimes it plays my own moves for me, but that is not actually what happened. White is thinking about the famous king d2, and Big Mick will have a minute and 16 seconds after he plays it to figure out what to do. Several moves are possible here, and Big Mick is basically counting on the pressure of the rook to keep this king away from my knight. And if Big Mick gets a move, it's obvious he's going to play knight b1. Right? To get out of there. In fact, white has to be careful. I mean, this is like, if you don't trap the knight, well, he's going to come back in. He's an angry piece. In fact, one basic positional threat is takes knight c2 and then an octopus here on e3. Okay, white did take. Rook e5. And my feeling is that white should hold this, but it's getting a little tricky. For example, king d2, knight b1, king c2, and I get to snip this guy. That's unfortunate. Yeah, and let me just say, you're a young guy, and you want to take Big Mick down in the end game. Well, there's going to be some work in there for you, friend, because Big Mick, he's hurt a lot of people. He's hurt me. Big Mick has hurt me several times.
All right, this one is personal.
So, Theodoru, who is chasing the GM title, got a draw with Kevlishvili.
All right, looks like a draw.
Looks like a draw, right? And then, of course, J.J. Marandi got the draw. So several early draws. So in Group B, we're looking at Big Mick's game. and we're looking at Eugene's game. The big big mix game is more of a technical suffering, and Eugene's is more like a long-term stomach ache,
Yes.
because it's just not going away. White can do so many things, and what we're not going to get into now, but you can well imagine, is just the kind of zugzwangs that can develop. And Eugene actually, he played a very committal move. Let's check it out. He must be saying that he has some kind of fortress now with G6. I'm not sure I believe it, but it's a thought. And maybe actually...
It's his idea also to play F5, if allowed.
Well, one thing, I think he maybe is rightly concerned about is if he didn't play G6, then bishop G4 was really going to demand the exchange of his good bishop, which is really his only good piece. Because imagine if you go bishop E8, then my bishop goes to start talking to your knight. Right? And I don't think that's going to work out.
So yeah, I think the real question is then, is it a win if you trade these bishops?
It looks like it, right? Because we have the zugzwang possibilities, and we're going to do things like king F5 and wiggle. We're going to wiggle our way in there. So G6 might be an act of simple desperation. It looks bad. For example, well, it's still okay.
Complicated,
So
right?
for example, here's just a variation where black survives. Takes, snip, 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 and I think he survives now because of the activity. Right? That there might be more to that than I just showed, but that's just an example. And if bishop G4, I suppose we're then assuming that F5 is going to come.
That's what I was wondering if he was banking on here.
Which has its own drama because now we're going to get an outside passed pawn. But the idea, I guess, is to say, well, White, at least your bishop isn't going to trade mine, and it's not going to really penetrate because at least Black's hoping that the bishop can't do anything nice with bishop
And perhaps
H5.
maybe Black can hope for some activity too. At some point, maybe he'll get a passer. But in all honesty, it does look quite good for White in this position. There's got to be some way here to break through and make some
this
progress.
is definitely a big... Well, so let's just say it's something obvious. G6 is a committal move, which is maybe a last-ditch attempt, and probably correct. It's saying that we have to...
You're in trouble.
So I don't... Maybe you can put it this way. I don't know which plan you're going to choose, White. You have a lot of different plans, but I know that I have to stop bishop G4. Right? Here's another nice variation. If takes bishop G4, then I think I can take,
Right. How do you
because
break
there's
through?
no way in.
How do you walk in? You
Right.
can't do it.
So there are some... I would believe if I was White, just looking at it, that I would have something very promising here.
Yeah, there's some win. There's a win here.
That's right.
Where is it?
Where is it? Yeah.
And I'm glad the players have to find it, not us.
No, I take it back. If I would love to be playing this tournament. I like commentary, but I would love to be in there having to solve. This would be the kind of problem you want to solve. You don't want to be in Eugene's shoes having to solve the G6 problem.
Oh,
This is very pleasant to have the White's problem here. All right.
All right.
Let's take a look.
While you do that, let's try to get a little bit more activity here in our YouTube chat. Though I do like Why Are Men in My Shoes, one of our most active commenters today, who said, I like both the commentators.
Oh.
So I would like this time to encourage some other people. Feel free to, at this point, press 1 in the chat if you think we're good commentators. And 2, if you think we are the best commentators of all time. Please do not vote for 3. But yes, please try to be a little bit more active in the chat, because we will read it. You write it, we read it. All right, what game has your eye? Are you looking back at the Quesada game?
Well, in the famous Quesada game, the issue that's going on here is that on knight c8...
Okay, so bishop to b5 was played.
Right, White needs an idea
wondering
here.
if that was going to happen there.
Yeah, and it's not so easy to figure out what White's intention is, especially if the knight can just bounce back and forth. So, yeah, Shimanov needs an idea. That's what he needs. I don't know. There are several ways. For example, one way to mess with him is to play knight e2 to g3 and then h5.
Yes, you do have 2 knights, and you want a knight to go to h5.
There's going to be ways to meet that, but that's just at least an idea, right? So let's expect some long-term grief there. Let's look at
suppose whenever
Miro's
that night-
beef. Oh, go ahead.
I'm very busy watching this chat. So.
All right.
But yeah, I do want to agree with Mr. Artek Manukyan, who says, no, best is Fiddler. Very true. Fiddler is an excellent commentator. But yes, lots of 1s and 2s and a 3. So thank you guys for chiming in. All right, what game has caught your eye?
Well, we're looking at Miro suffering.
Yeah, here we
We're
are.
looking at Miro suffering. Oh, and the
This is
game.
professional suffering.
The game that we really need to check in on, and I'm sorry, viewers, I've been neglecting this game. It's been very interesting for a long time. Let's go to where the big decision was long ago, which was we had knight h5, king g8, and this is where we were talking about the decision between bishop e7 and rook g3.
All right, what did he come up with?
So in fact, he played rook g3, knight g6, and one of the many reasons that Krishnan is a better player than me is I would have had a little bit of hesitation after I started seeing things like rook c4. It would have just scared me off of this. And I probably, bishop e7 felt safe, but maybe it wasn't
Tell me he
enough.
played b3 or something?
Well, he plays queen d3. And let's take a look at this for a moment. Imagine rook c4. The intention, I believe, is to snip.
Just take it, right?
And look at this terrible thing. Your king can't move. Your king can't move. And then when you do this, knight f6, it's mate.
Oh,
well,
boy.
it's not mate, because it would go up your queen. But this bishop is fulfilling a very
Yes, it
valuable
is.
role here. Yeah. So queen d3 looks very nice. And it's definitely still scary because there's a bunch of things black can do. In the game, black just said, okay, no, I own the light squares, and now b3. So this is close to what I was suggesting. I was saying we have to keep the rook out. Rook h7, it's not pretty. b5, a5,
Okay, yeah.
keeping
Trying
it
to
locked
get
down.
that b3 pawn to move with the move b5. Hoping to take on a4. Get the b3 pawn to move. Play rook c4.
Sure, sure.
Didn't happen.
This is, look at this thing he's trying to do here. I'm not sure I buy it. He's trying to say, I'm getting out of the way there, and my rook is like permanently bad. So this is starting to look good for Krishnan, and I think this, if I still believe in black's position here, but this is where black needed to find a better idea of trying to unravel, and maybe even, to think about king h7 here. That's the only way your pieces are ever going to fully make sense, right? You're pinning your knight and everything, I get it, but with this move, rook h7, well, I don't like it. I don't like it.
It's bad.
That's that's the entombment, right?
I mean, this
that's the
should
entombment.
probably be winning for white even.
And look at this nastiness. Look at this. You could. I'm sure you could play f4 here, but look at what he did. Bam!
Oh boy. Blundered exchange. No, you didn't.
No, it's not about the. We're not interested in the
look at
exchange.
that.
I never want to. I'm never going to touch your rook ever.
That's
Boom.
Have you seen a worse rook than that?
It's hard to find. This rook actually now it can dream about playing h5 and rook h6, so at least has a dream. But unfortunately, there's some basic questions like knight e7. This is a nice square to hold anyway. Black is, I guess, obliged to do what he did. No trade.
All right.
f3.
F3.
Let's talk about that move for a second. A lesser man like myself would have wanted to play something like f4.
I suppose maybe he didn't put it on f4 because in the line where you play h5, rook h6, then your bishop doesn't take that rook.
No, I
maybe
think
he's trying to keep it open.
That's a valuable point. Yeah. So.
Also, is he worried f4, queen f5? Is that a worry?
It could be. It's also a question, though, like when you see this move f3, it's like, well, what's the long-term plan? And my sense is that we don't mind necessarily trading queens. We just want to make sure this rook never moves, right? So maybe, like, if I could get that kind of
so we
action.
can extend our pawn all the way to h5.
This is the
Feeling great.
entombment variation. We're
Yes.
not necessarily playing for mate. We're playing for the entombment of the rook. Let's see how it goes for him. So h5, trying to get out. h4, no, you're not getting out. Rook c6. g4.
I was wondering if
very
G4
nice.
come in.
Very nice. Notice that he doesn't care that the rook has an optical out. It's not really an out.
Right, the knight is protecting that pawn.
And if you play HG, I'm just going to play
Take it
FG with a tempo on your queen, and I'm going to play H5 in the full entombment would have happened.
Boy, beautiful.
Bishop E7, King G2. Oh, very nice. Very nice play.
Very patient. I love it.
This is actually one of my... I think this could go... You could put this in a book. This is a very nice strategical lock on black. Bishop D8, C3.
Oh, boy.
Now that's a tricky move because you're allowing black to take. So let's just see if we were ignorant and took this thing. What terrible thing would happen to black here?
I feel like maybe that's your best shot here as black.
Yeah, right. It's not. It's not
immediate.
It's
but
not
maybe-
immediate.
Is he just playing B4 and just saying whatever, lockdown?
Maybe,
But
but why
I
did
don't
we
really
have? We
understand
didn't
this,
really
yeah.
have to play C3, right?
Unless there's something obvious we're missing here. I guess I don't understand C3.
This is why I like doing commentary on people whose games are better than mine because they do things, and then I have to really ask, like, what? Because C3 is intense, and then there's some problem with Bishop A5.
I'm taking your A pawn. Give me.
It's probably really obvious too. I'm not seeing it at all.
I took your pawn.
I can't really. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Where was his bishop's back here? Is the bishop like? I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to count that to my own ignorance. I have no idea. In the game, black played queen e8. White said f4. Wow.
So yeah, thanks to everybody in the chat. Lots of love in the chat today. It's weird. I haven't heard a lot of people saying bad things about us. I know there's trolls out there. You guys must be out there. And that's today. It's been a very clean chat. and we
This is
appreciate
something
it.
amazing going on, Jonathan. This is like... this is
Absolute
next
beauty, isn't it?
Well, this is next
This
level
is
stuff. So maybe the idea
Like Alpha Zero.
of bishop a5, I really don't get it, but maybe this is truly the intention, where it doesn't look intuitive because of this guy. And then what is your intention? Is it
Here
this?
about nothing. F5.
I think, okay, let's just see if this is actually real, because takes,
Rook takes, right?
queen takes.
Oh boy. I take it all back. I'll take my pieces.
We're missing some key idea here, and I don't know what it is, because f4 happens, and then the obvious question would be like, hey buddy, what if I take your pawn?
Yeah,
I see.
So there's a
nothing.
person in chat asking,
Uh-huh.
what about C4 after bishop takes A5? Thank you for the question,
Okay.
Zucchini Man.
c4, and let's say snip. Let's just assume snip.
All right.
Let's assume snip.
What am I doing here? How do I
don't know.
protect my knight and my bishop?
There's Zucchini Man might have some point. You know, you could say queen e4 maybe. There's still more questions though. Like I
And
could
I'm also
take,
wondering, maybe this is
take.
if you back
take.
up
Yeah.
just a little bit before. So when we played C4,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps even right here, because I'm wondering, there's all this. Things are overworked here. I wonder, can we just take the bishop?
Yeah.
And then your knight's going to be hanging if you take me back.
Yeah, I assume Zucchini had some idea with taking
Not
on
quite
D5
seeing
or
it,
D5.
but
And I don't really see
I don't
it
know.
either.
Maybe there's
Yeah.
something. Maybe there's not. Maybe you blundered a pawn.
You know, I have to
Fool.
say, usually when they play a really good move, I have an idea of what they're doing. They're here, we have several moves, I don't get it. Okay, I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I don't get C3.
Are we going to be mega impressed or you blunder a
F4
pawn?
happens. So F4, as you pointed out ages ago, is controversial because the rook is allowed to go to H6. Now, there's multiple questions about F4. You're also
You're thinking
losing the
about rook
G4
H6.
pawn.
Is that what you're?
The rook H6 is the problem, right? But there's some also problem here. I don't understand. Well, and that's the variation we just... Well, let's try it one more time here, actually. So F5.
Alrighty.
And if you take, maybe this is your problem. Now your bishop is hanging here. I assume that's... it's hanging if you play queen e6, right? And if you play rook e6, I can think about both rook f5 and knight f4.
Right.
Okay, so even that I'm going to say is really complicated because rook e6, if knight f4, it's queen c6. Hello.
Yeah, right. And I'm not even sure that you're even better anymore in such a line. Seems like White's sort of losing everything there.
So check it out. Rook h6, f5. Now the thing that really where Black could start believing in himself is at least now, look at these rooks are going to start being connected. Now, one thing is often the case is you got some guy in entombment and you still have to bust the castle open. You got to bust the castle open in order to break through. So let's see how this goes. Takes. Also, I'm just gonna say for sure Sassi was in big time pressure. King h7, snip, and now no one knows who's better anymore.
Oh boy.
No one knows who's better. So a lot of suspicious looking things in there. Things definitely I didn't understand, but also I'm sure, the computer probably wouldn't like it. But this is what happens when you play at a high level and you've been playing for a long time already and your time is clicking down. And Sassi does, if he has one weakness, it might be time pressure here. And so let's just look. This was the beginning position where I'm going to say I like White a lot. And he expended a lot of time to reach this beautiful thing. And things got crazy, though. And now the rook got out. There he is. He's out. And let's just play one more move. We'll go to another game in a second. Let's just play one more move. There's more than one check, but I don't know. Let's just take with the rook for a second.
Take with the rook?
They're both look. I'm sure he's thinking about both now, right?
Okay, so that's where we are. So this was not played.
Actually, yeah. This is what was played. Rook takes was played. I'm sure queen takes was playable. We just on the surface though, we're gonna have to say we'd rather be Black, right?
I feel like whatever White had, it's kind of over. We had this rook entombed.
Yeah, Sassi said it's time to go on a journey, and that's never a good sign.
Yeah, whatever White had, it's over.
Loads of pleasant moves here for Black. Rook g4, some kind of queen move. It didn't go well. It didn't go well.
A-pawn's hanging too. I do want to mention, your pawns are still hanging.
It's the bummer about, playing really beautiful creative chess is that, you find your way to some beautiful position, but you spent so much time and energy getting there that you can't convert. Mm-hmm. And speaking of that, let's see how Shimanov is doing, because he has a similar problem against Unieski. And he's been tanking ever since this knight c8 to see correctly if he has some kind of breakthrough plan here.
All right.
It looks like probably not, but he's going to try.
Looks like we're going to be here a while, is what it. These players are going to be here a while.
They're going to be here for a while. Yeah, I would stay. If you guys want to extend the show, I'll stick around. Let's go and look at Eugene and see what happened. White changed his tune a little bit. Let's look at g6. So White changed his tune and said bishop f1. One beautiful thing about White's position is he can sit. This is actually this is a very Russian old school thing to do, is that you make moves that look like they might threaten something, and really what you're doing is you're giving your opponent some time to be afraid. Give him some time to be afraid, and also giving yourself time to think about all the different plans. Looks like Eugene has a lot less time, too. Mm-hmm. Now, do you see any ideas here that Aram is thinking about?
What else could we do?
I guess the question is, does he have some dream here? It looks like he's
dreaming, but
I'm not sure. Like he had some dream about bishop c2, f5. In any case, he said, you know what? I'm just going to cruise back to bishop f3. And this is the kind of moving around that I think is good practice. Just move around and make him suffer.
If you're winning, it's not going away.
Well, I don't know if he's winning, but it's more like we're just going to make him suffer for a little bit, and he might crack. I don't see a way through, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is. It wouldn't surprise me at all. So that's the suffering there. Eugene, good luck. That's a key game for the standings, of course. Eugene, even though he's only at +1, like we were saying with Timur, that section is so wide open that at +1 you're leading the tournament. Okay, I got to look at Big Mix game.
Yes, please.
All right. So let's back up where we had it. We were looking at Rook E5, King F2. And the thing about King F2 is now
Going the other direction.
White is definitively saying, I give up on corralling your knight.
Yeah, it's not trapped. All right.
So now he goes loose. Rook to D7 first. Snip the pawn, snip, and A5. Now let's think about this for a moment. This looks right. So the reason is that if you play Rook A7, Big Mick is going to take the E3 pawn.
Mm-hmm.
Now this was certainly an option, but the problem is the knight and the rook will actually coordinate well to create an attack of their own. That's part of the drama. For example, on King F3, you could play Rook E3 or Knight E3. Mm-hmm. King E2, same thing. So there's no pleasant way out of it. So White decides to play A5. And when you're black and you're trying to win against a strong player, a lot of times you get some messy position like this where you are up a pawn, but White definitely has compensation. The bishop is now both minor pieces are strong, but the bishop and the rook are working well together, and basically black needs to find a way to give White grief before the A7 pawn drops and the A5 pawn starts marching. I think Big Mick should be able to find a way to do it, probably starting with Knight E4, but there's probably... Rook E7 is also a totally fine candidate move.
Right.
Yeah. So I like Big Mick's chances there. And this H4 pawn is menacing, not only to later advance, but, the control of this square is going to be nice in a lot of variations. Mm-hmm. I love so we got some squirming going on here. We got some squirming going on in both groups. And like I said, a lot of times people get offended by draws, and those are the commentators I don't like. Me and Maurice are going to have another fist fight about that anytime soon. And because, he's really upset when they draw. But it takes a lot of skill to try to hold positions like this. And even though Magnus and Fabi sometimes make it look easy, it is not hard, and it takes a lot of spiritual and physical and mental energy to hold it together in a 6 hour of play.
Few people have these virtues.
Right, right. Let's check in with Sassi. This would be a big loss, of course, and Daro's really just mulling over his beautiful options here. I learned a nice word. Actually, I'm going to ask Van Forest about it. Apparently in Dutch, there's a phrase you say, it's a luxury choice.
Luxury choice, yes.
Right? So black has, at least it seems like several good moves that seem like they'd be good.
Yes.
The problem is, let's say it this way, the problem for black, is that White does have a space advantage in the sense that it's hard for the black queen in particular to jump out. And that could be one argument, for example, for playing your move. Your instinct was queen g6. Mm-hmm. Totally fine move. The question there, though, is similar. Is like, well, then how are you going to get the rook in? Right after. Mm-hmm. But queen g6 might have also been quite good. I guess the problem is once the king moves, I don't know which square, h2 or h1. Like,
yes,
you
my
can't
idea
move.
was to take one of your pawns. My bishop's hanging, and you have 2 pawns hanging. So
right.
My intention was to take one, probably the h pawn.
Right, and then you got to worry about rook g1 and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
And maybe I should have, yeah.
I mean, rook takes also,
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so that's where we're at, and it's easy for me to sit here and say black should have something here because I don't have to find it, but it does look like there should be something here for black. Bishop h4. There's got to be at least a little something.
It feels good.
Because even on rook h1, I can play rook g4. It's not like my bishop's getting kicked out, Okay, so that looks very pleasant. Sassi's having a rough time. He lost yesterday to Sevian from a very nice position. Time pressure. Here, time pressure again. Maybe I'll, that's in those weird decisions, I don't want to ask him. That's too painful. I don't want to ask him about the weird decisions. My friend Melkumian, he is still making Miro suffer. here's a funny thing. So I'm hanging out. He's staying in the same place I am, right? We're hanging out.
Which, for those that don't know, we have these chess houses
We have
right
these
down the
chess
street.
houses, right.
So if you play in one of our tournaments here, as one of these GMs IMs playing in these big tournaments,
Right.
you actually get to stay right down the street, and you walk
Right.
one building over, and you get to play in the chess club.
So, you know, a lot of times when people ask me where I'm from, I say I'm from the 80s, because that's, you know, when I came up. And so I'm listening to these 80s songs, and Arant's over there, and we're just hanging out. And for whatever reason, we get songs by the Smiths coming on, like old Smith songs, from like beautiful old Smith songs. And the guy knows all the lyrics.
Really?
And it's really weird when you think about it, because the Smith songs, like when you listen to it, it's like you're going to catch some of the lyrics.
Right.
But to know all of the lyrics, it's like, wow, I was really taken aback. It was like more than one song he could do this. And he told me the story where Levon turned him on to the Smiths.
Oh, really?
And I'm like,
Levon's a
Levon's
big
listening to the
fan.
Smiths?
Wow.
Yeah. Then we went to The Cure. He knew the lyrics to the Cure songs.
Oh, boy.
And
Yeah. Once you get stuck in the 80s, you just can't stop.
well, I think here's the thing. Now, obviously, it's just a beautiful band, but he told me this other thing that, like, Armenians don't like to smile. You know, and you start listening to enough Smith songs and Cure songs,
Oh, yeah?
you're not going to be smiling all the time, you know. That's
What it is.
Yeah.
They're listening to so much 80s.
They're listening to so much emo music that the whole country's come down into a national pain mode.
Yeah, that makes the most sense.
Yeah. All right, everybody. I think we're going to wrap it up there on that beautiful note. Go ahead and follow the games on uschesschamps.com. And a lot of games going on. Like I said, I would stay forever. Bishop h4, by the way. Let's do a quick recap.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Bishop-
too much. We need to stay.
Bishop h4 was just played, and Black is going to have the long-term threat of the h-pawn, but more importantly, mating potential with moves like rook g3. Very hard to deal with. And maybe a move like queen e4 now to try to pin and win. You're not actually going to win, but you're going to slow him down. All right? All right, let's take a look. Miro is continuing to suffer. I believe that he should hold that, though. Unieski, the big game, he's done an interesting thing here. This actually, we got to pause here for a second. Knight a7, and Shimanov says, you know what? I'm going to change the structure of the position right now. And Quesada's thinking about he's got to take the knight because the knight on a7 is hanging. And he's thinking about which knight to recapture on, and also maybe just the question of, like, what is it that White's intending here?
Well, what else was White to do? If he's going to try to win, I guess he's got to try to shake it up somehow.
Let's just say something obvious. When you take, now you're going to have to take back with the pawn either now or the next move. Let's just put it here for just to show the problem. b6 could be played. I'm sure other moves are possible. And then White all of a sudden has to worry about bishop e8.
Don't take my pawn, please.
Don't take my pawn, bro. So I think the intention must be bishop b5. And then if you take, now you don't have to take. Well, Black doesn't have to take the thing.
Well, I'll take it.
But
Give me.
let's just do this for kicks. I'm not sure at all about this position, especially because it's now White who is in Zugzwang. But one intention could be to say, well, bishop e8, knight e6. Unfortunately, though, no, right? No, there's no move for White here. This is one of, well, take it back.
The one funny thing is...
Wait, you could play h5.
Yeah, I'm also looking at one other funny line. So if you go back just one move here.
Wait. h5, and what's going to happen?
Move my bishop, yeah.
I'm going to assume bishop e8, knight e6. I don't know how to evaluate that, but it looks like maybe White could, have some fancy tricks. I'm not even sure about that, though. You were going to ask a question. I'm sorry.
Still a funny thing, just based sort of on the same. We're trying to create a situation if you go all the way through, and we took on b5 twice.
With the bishop.
With the bishop. Let's take with the bishop, take back with the pawn.
Sure.
I'm trying to get some funny position where White can even play a move like knight h5, where if, say that your bishop's on e8, Black played bishop e8, knight h5. My funny idea, which doesn't have to happen at all.
Let's say like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that if you ever take my knight and I take back, White is the one that has the reserve tempo. So I'm waiting. I'm going to play a move. I have to move f4 if I need it, but otherwise I'm just straight up taking your pawn.
No, you're a genius. Yeah.
Unless I'm not even breaking through there.
No,
But,
I think this is
Black
important.
has to back up. I take it.
And you know what? It's important that you have this f4 move in reserve, because what the way it could go down is you go like this, Black puts you in Zugzwang and say, no, you're in Zugzwang,
I
buddy.
had that one extra tempo.
Oh,
Look at all those doubled puns.
Props for Jonathan.
Oh, yeah.
Props for Jonathan. Let's look at that idea again. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, of course.
So,
Black is not not forced to take my knight.
but it's important just to understand like what the idea might be, because it's honestly not immediately obvious. At least it wasn't immediately obvious to me. Now, like you said, we could just play a move like b6.
Right. Definitely don't have to take the bishop if I don't want to.
But the drama could be snip, snip, and right, some kind of knight h5 when we want it. But I love this variation here. b6, knight h5, bro.
Yeah. And if only you were forced to take me.
Well,
taking me is hard, but
let's take a look. So bishop e8, snip, snip. The bummer for white is the knight. The knight wants to win another one of those pawns, but it's not that easy to do.
Right. We also got to worry about this bishop coming to e2. Starting to harass our
The
pawns.
bishop on e, yeah. But you know what? Like, but actually, right away we go boom. Let's say you start. Well, you don't really want to harass now. This is
I don't want to
danger.
force you forward.
This is
Right,
real
yeah.
danger. Yeah, that's
There is
real
definitely-
danger.
White is definitely looking to
Okay,
overstand.
so let's look at this for a second. So knight a b5 happened, and yeah, we're gonna look. So I'll tell you what. Before I leave, we're gonna come back to that game just to check it out.
Sure, yeah, let's just do one last
The
run
one
here
last
around the
run.
horn.
Aram Akobian is going to dance a little with the knight, and one bummer is he can always go back to. It's so unfortunate. So, in your white here, what you're going to try to do is create some situation where the knight can come back in a way that forces black, to do the dance. And this knight can start kind of coming back, but he's honestly not going to be doing
Go
that
one
much.
step closer to being back.
Right. He
yeah.
has to keep pace
Very true.
with the other knight, right? So it's not so easy. So there's True Suffering. And Victor. Let's see how Victor's doing. A5, check to the miserable king. King f3, rook e7, rook d5. And let's call that a clean advantage for Victor, but it's not over yet.
Yeah, so, all right, fans will
That's
have to
definitely
stay.
a clean
Keep
advantage.
a look. Oh,
Actually-
good. There's a pop culture reference in the chat, which
Uh-huh.
I know nothing about pop culture,
All
so I
right.
don't know how relevant this is.
Yeah.
But I've been told by Jerry Stone that GM Jesse looks like Clarence from RoboCop. Is that a reference you're
yeah.
familiar with?
No, I don't know Clarence from RoboCop.
I wish I knew anything about pop culture, so I'd know if that's true or not. Mr. Jerry Stone.
My friend Elshon, who knows me quite well, it was some picture of me on social media, and he asked whoever posted the picture, he's like, is that Karsten Hansen? And I was like, what, Elshon? Do we all look the same? Us white guys? Come on, us bald white guys? Do we all look the same? Yeah. So I don't know.
Right,
Let's one more peek in then, and then we'll end the show, and that is with the famous. We got Daro. Oh man, I don't know. These are all sad. Oh, this was the game though. We wanted to ask the question. White is thinking about it. You'd think if he played knight b5, he would have an idea of what exactly he's going to
maybe.
do right now. He might be having second thoughts.
Oh, he knows. He said, I'll take back.
I'll take it back.
If he takes me, I'll take it back.
He took back with
All right,
the
but now
pawn.
he's got to choose how.
He took with the pawn.
Okay, there we go.
So I don't see Quesada losing this anymore.
Yeah, it definitely looks a little bit better than what we saw before.
I mean, if you just play b6, the bummer is your bishop is terrible.
I know, what happened?
Yeah.
Why did I double my b-pawns? What did
well,
I do?
One funny thing, actually, I'll point out, is that I could sense way back when that he didn't want to play f5. It made sense because you're blocking your bishop. But he had a very specific purpose, and that was to improve the king. You got to play f5 before you play, before you play king d4, or else knight e6 is going to come. And that's f5 is haunting him here because it's blocking him in. And now the b5 is also blocking him in. So now Quesada, in terms of how you win a tournament, it's holding a game like this is a big deal.
So yeah, that's what our fans will be staying tuned to see what happens in this big game.
All
and
right.
before we go, I will say thank you one more time to our YouTube chat. It's been fantastic. And we'll finish with one last comment. People are, now that they're talking about our physical appearance, which
Yeah.
is fantastic. The other guy in the studio, presumably me, looks like Woody Harrelson is what they're saying.
Woody Harrelson, you're not even bald.
I know, but perhaps they've been seeing Woody Harrelson, who was at the World Chess Championship. A big fan of chess. So
They can't even separate the bald from the unbald.
we got to give them what they get. You guys have been fantastic all day.
right.
And obviously, none of this would be possible without the world's best B team.
That's right.
Our who do we got on the board? We got Danny Machuca.
Machuca.
And we got Isaac doing the graphics and everything else. And they make this all happen, and they run the show behind the scenes.
And we got a guy doing pro wrestling commentary out there, don't forget.
That's true. So if you're in whatever area Ben Simon's in, look him up. I don't know how to find it. I wish I knew. We could plug all of his wrestling stuff. But if you're into the world of wrestling, check out Ben Simon.
And next week, we're going to get a video of Ben Simon in a suit jumping off the top rope. And I'm going to show that.
For sure.
Yeah,
that
that's
is
gonna
definitely
be
happening.
part of
So
the
you
show.
cannot miss a day.
Yeah.
Please join us tomorrow at the same time. It will begin. For those of us that are in the Central Time Zone, that is 3:30 p.m. Do not look at the screen. It'll be 3:30 p.m. And you can watch us again on U.S. Chess Champs. Thanks to everybody for watching. It's been a fantastic show. I was very happy to be here.
Yep.
And I look forward to being here tomorrow at the same time.
All right. I look forward to it.
This has been a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club.